Argentina's Senate approved on Thursday the debt rescheduling agreement with the International Monetary Fund. Russia's President Vladimir Putin reiterated that the main goal of the Russian operation in Ukraine is to free people from suffering and genocide. Chinese President Xi Jinping held a video conference this Friday with his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden to discuss the state of bilateral relations and issues of common interest such as the Donbass conflict. Hi, this is From the South. I am your news anchor Diego Martin from the TeleSUR studios in Havana. We begin with the news. Argentina's Senate approved on Thursday the debt rescheduling agreement with the International Monetary Fund. The Senate passed into law the bill that authorizes the government of Alberto Fernandez to close the agreement with the IMF for the refinancing of the debt of more than $44 billion contracted in 2018 by Mauricio Macri's administration. The initiative was approved after 56 positive votes, 13 negative and 3 abstentions. The bill had been approved in the Chamber of Deputies a week ago amidst a climate of social tension and protest by social movements and left-wing parties. In Colombia, political organizations launched an operation to denounce multiple cases of electoral crimes and fraud committed during the legislative elections held on March 13th. Regarding this historical pact, representatives denounced fraud in more than 30,000 voting tables where the electoral results were rigged to show that the coalition had not received any votes. Likewise, the Afro community circumscription to the Chamber of Representatives published several proofs of electoral crimes after citizens alerted that their votes did not appear counted in the webpage of the registry office. Social movements affiliated to Historical Pact announced that they will present an initiative to recover up to 500,000 votes and at least 2 seats in the legislative chambers. Peru's government will appeal to international justice organizations to revoke the Constitutional Court's decision to reinstate the pardon granted in 2017 to former President Alberto Fujimori, according to the Deputy Minister of Justice Juan Carrasco. Carrasco pointed out this means going to international courts, to the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, and through these mechanisms reversing the decision. In a meeting at the government palace in Lima with President Pedro Castillo, the deputy minister emphasized there are constitutional ways to which Peru will return to as soon as they receive the Constitutional Court's sentence. Regarding this detail, the Peruvian head of state will first have to know the basis of the ruling issued by the Constitutional Court, which he described as outrageous for all the Peruvians who believe in justice.
There are definitely constitutional mechanisms to which Peru will resort when we are notified and we see what are the allegations or what is the support. The basis on the part of the Constitutional Court to issue this ruling that definitely for all Peruvians who believe in democracy, who believe in justice, is totally outrageous.
And hundreds of people protested in the streets of Peru in rejection of the pardon and release of former President Alberto Fujimori. The main rally took place at 5 p.m. in the capital's San Martin Square in the historical center of Lima. The demonstrators went later to the headquarters of the Constitutional Court, and there were also protests in the cities of Cusco, Arequipa, and Ayacucho. During the protest in Lima, several people raised banners with the slogans "Corrupt Court," "No Forgetting," "No Forgiveness," and "Fujimori to Prison."
He kidnapped journalists, killed innocent people, children, sterilized women, and all of that is unfair. It is not possible that they pardon him.
That man committed many crimes, and crimes against humanity are imprescriptible.
We are here in disagreement because we believe that the former president of Peru, Alberto Fujimori, is a dictator and has committed acts against humanity, such as the crimes of Barrios Altos, Pativilca, and La Cantuta.
In Bolivia, private producers, both from large and medium-sized companies, as well as associations and family initiatives, met at a Congress to organize and coordinate with government authorities their prospects of strengthening and growing. Our correspondent, Frei Morales, gives us more details.
All of these people are private entrepreneurs of all sizes in the industry. Their need to survive, strengthen, and grow has brought them together at a Congress.
We propose the expansion of the agriculture frontier. To achieve this, it is essential that we have 2 clear conditions. First, free transit, which is what it is so damaging to production. In less than 2 weeks, my distinguished friends, we have had more than 8 blockades. Last year, exports were pretty good in our main product, for example, but the blow we went through in previous years stops us from speaking of a full recovery. Commercial teams should also be strengthened in embassies and consulates where the country is currently present.
Small and micro entrepreneurs brought with them what they produce and also those who wish to find a market for their products.
The coffee that they buy from us. In Coroico, our coffee has been on hold for 2 years. The producers have been in pain for 2 years. We want people to buy and consume our coffee.
Encarnacion promotes its association of vegetables producers, and Maritza is association of leather producers.
Open field production, it has started with that. Beans, peas, potatoes, carrots, and from there it has been growing, getting projects to get these greenhouses. We have started with 115 women. We also provide employment. The association is comprised of 21 members. Behind these 21 members, there are, in each production unit, about 5 or 6 workers.
And all producers, no matter their size, have a common enemy.
Smuggling is absolutely multiplying. It is overtaking us. Today, it represents 7% of Bolivia's gross domestic product. That is the main problem. The other problem is a very high level of informality.
The conclusion of Producers' Congress will be submitted to a national government. The main conclusions are greater efficiency against smuggling, improvement of domestic trade, laws, and in the case of exporters, a preferential dollar rate that has remained unchanged for a decade.
Freddy Morales, TeleSUR, Bolivia.
The Mexican government said the country is going through a forensic emergency and that there are thousands of corpses whose identity is unclear and whose necropsy and death certificates are significantly doubtful. The Undersecretary of Human Rights, Alejandro Encina, stated that 80% of the unidentified deceased are concentrated in Mexico cities. Encina, whose office is attached to the Secretariat of Government, detailed that out of the 37,000 bodies, some 8,000 had been taken to the morgues and the rest were in mass graves. The Mexican official also pointed out that the lack of a national genetic database to match DNA samples taken from relatives of the disappeared is one of the main causes of the problem.
There is no national genetic database that allows for the comparison of data obtained both from genetic samples taken by families and from bodies found. This genetic information is not shared. It is not contrasted. There is no capacity or will. This is the main problem. There is a lack of will to do this on a massive scale.
We're going to take a short break now. Please join us again after this. And welcome back. Russia's President Vladimir Putin reiterated that the main goal of the Russian operation in Ukraine is to free people from suffering and genocide. The statement was made during the celebrations in Moscow for the 8th anniversary of the annexation of Crimea, while large crowds in the streets waved flags with the Z symbol and expressed his support for the military operations in Ukraine. The Russian president recalled that Donbass did not accept the coup in Ukraine, for which it was subjected to retaliatory military operations by Kiev. The Russian president also said that the population of Crimea made the right decision that allowed it to put an end to the humiliating situation to which it was subject by the Ukrainian authorities. The United Nations Security Council held a meeting on Friday at the request of Russia to discuss a U.S. military biolabs program in Ukraine. Russia requested the emergency meeting to deal with the United States helping implementing dangerous projects in Ukraine as part of their military biological programs. The permanent representative of Russia to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, presented new documents obtained in the course of the military operation that proved the development of these joint biological programs. Russia also tried to promote another meeting on Ukraine to pass a balanced, depoliticized, and action-oriented resolution. As part of the United Nations Security Council about the to international peace and security, the permanent representative of Russia to the international body, Vasily Nebenzia, presented evidence of the implementation of dangerous projects in Ukraine as part of their military biological programs.
President, colleagues, we've already said that during Russia's special military operation in Ukraine, information was discovered regarding the implementation of the Ukrainian authorities with the support and the direct supervision of the US Ministry of Defense of dangerous projects as part of their military and biological program. This activity was carried out on the territory of Ukraine, at the center of Eastern Europe, and in the western borders of Russia, which created a real threat for the biosecurity of our country and the whole region.
The Russian diplomat also recalled an agreement signed in 2005 between the United States, the Department of Defense, and the Ministry of Health of Ukraine, which clearly set the support from the Pentagon to join biological research and use dangerous pathogens located in facilities on Ukrainian territory.
I'd recall here we're talking about an agreement signed in 2005 between the US Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Health of Ukraine, which clearly sets forth support for the Pentagon to joint biological research applicable to dangerous pathogens located in facilities on Ukrainian territory.
During his speech before the Security Council, Vasily Nebenzia referred to new details that came to light about the United States helping the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense and not the Ministry of Health, as they claimed.
Over the last week, new details have come to light, which allow us to state that the components for biological weapons were being created on the territory of Ukraine. The implementation of the aforementioned American-Ukrainian agreement from 2005, and comments on which we're still waiting for from the US representation, has been going full steam ahead for all these years. However, from the document we can see that the American colleagues were not helping, as they claim, the Ukrainian Ministry of Health, but rather the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Friday the United States had created more than 300 biological laboratories all over the world, with Ukraine being the Pentagon's biggest project.
Those laboratories have been created by the United States all over the world, more than 300 laboratories in various countries, many of them on the perimeter of the Russian Federation and the former Soviet republics, including Ukraine. Ukraine is probably the biggest project for the Pentagon. We will be insisting on this issue to be picked up by the Biological Weapons Convention, but also by the Security Council, because it's a clear threat to international peace and security.
The Russian Defense Ministry claims that the self-proclaimed Republic of Luhansk, quote-unquote, liberated 90% of the territory of the oblast, and said that units of the Donetsk People's Republic are fighting nationalists in the city center of Mariupol. In the Daily Report, the spokesman of the Russian Defense Ministry, Igor Konashenkov, said that units of the self-proclaimed Luhansk People's Republic are destroying different groups of nationalists on the outskirts of the settlement of Rubezhnoye, now under control of the LPR militias. The military official also noted that in Donetsk, the Russian armed forces continue a successful attack in the northern direction. At the same time, the report informed that several settlements were taken under control during the day, and added that the Donetsk forces, with the support of the Russian armed forces, engaged in battle against Ukrainian nationalists in the center of Mariupol on Friday morning.
In Mariupol, units of the Donetsk People's Republic, with the support of the Russian armed forces, are squeezing their encirclement and are fighting against nationalists in the city center. The grouping of troops of the Lugansk People's Republic, with fire support from the Russian armed forces, have liberated more than 90% of the republic's territory. During the night, aviation and air defense systems of the Russian airspace forces shut down 6 more Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles in the air, including one Bayraktar TB2 operational tactical army and unmanned aircraft hit 81 military facilities of
Lawmakers voted on Friday to abolish most of Germany's coronavirus pandemic restrictions, despite a surge in infections with almost 300,000 new daily cases. The Bundestag passed an amendment to the pandemic rules and the 388 to 277 vote with 2 abstentions. The upper house of parliament, made up of Germany's 16 states, is expected to consider the measure later Friday. The changes mean that the requirement to wear face masks will be dropped for most public settings from Sunday on, though they may still be required on public transportation. Visitors of care homes will also continue to need negative COVID-19 tests, but these will not be required any longer in other walks of life. States can still impose new restrictions to curb outbreaks in virus hotspots, but governors have complained that this measure is unworkable given the nationwide increase in cases. China relaunched its COVID-19 early diagnosis program in response to the swift spread of the Omicron variant in the population. The city of Hangzhou in eastern China set up inflatable COVID-19 testing laboratories as it struggled to curb the spread of the Omicron variant. The country had maintained outbreaks under control through a combination of strict border checks, extended quarantines, and selected blockades, and has not reported any coronavirus-related deaths for more than a year. However, the highly transmissible Omicron strain poses a severe challenge to that strategy, prompting authorities to close cities, including the southern technology hub of Shenzhen, home to 17.5 million people.
Our main goal is to race against the epidemic. Theoretically, the daily testing capacity can reach 100,000 tubes, which can effectively relieve the testing pressure of major testing institutions.
In the meantime, Chinese President Xi Jinping said the country would continue with its zero-COVID strategy to curb the spread of the disease as soon as possible. The world's most populous nation is battling its largest outbreak since the early days of the pandemic. Speaking at a meeting of the country's top leaders, the president said China must raise the level of scientifically accurate prevention and control and continuously optimize disease control measures. Just 3 weeks ago, the Asian nation was reporting under 100 infections daily, but that number has swelled past 1,000 per day for a week. The country where the virus emerged in Wuhan in late 2019 has largely kept it under control since then through strict measures, not having reported any COVID-related deaths for more than a year. We have more news coming up after a final short break. Please stay with us. Hi and welcome back to From the South. Chinese President Xi Jinping held a video conference this Friday with his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden to discuss the state of bilateral relations and issues of common interest, such as the Donbass conflict. According to the Chinese authorities, President Xi Jinping maintains his position of not accepting pressure or coercion from the White House on the issue of Ukraine, as well as not allowing Washington to damage the country's development plans. The dialogue between the two heads of state comes shortly after Washington declared that Chinese companies and citizens could face reprisals if they don't comply with the unilateral sanctions imposed on Russia by Western powers. Nearly 200 people have been injured in the latest protests to erupt in the Sudanese capital on Friday over deteriorating economic conditions following a military takeover. Sudan's Doctors Committee issued a statement saying that 187 people were injured in clashes with police in Khartoum, 70 of whom were likely struck by rubber bullets. 3 of the wounded were shot in either the head or chest and are currently in intensive care. Riot police used tear gas to disperse thousands of protesters who had sought to reach the Republican Palace, seat of the military government. The recent demonstrations were the latest in near-daily street protests since the military took over on October 25th, removing a civilian-led transitional government. Since then, at least 87 people have been killed and thousands wounded in a bloody crackdown on protesters, according to the Doctors Union. Injury and omission of duty is a complaint that the Andalusian Federation Acoge has placed in the hands of the Spanish prosecutor after the controversial and violent action of the Spanish security forces at the border of Melilla against refugees trying to reach Spain. More details in the following report with our correspondent Sergio Rodrigo.
The migrants' hooks are still hanging from the fence of Melilla. At this point of the border perimeter, About 2,000 people tried to cross the triple wire fence in one of the most crowded jumps of the city, but also the most violent. The Melilla Alcohol Association has submitted the image to the prosecutor's office to investigate the Spanish police for crimes of injury and omission of duty to migrants trying to reach Europe. We have seen violence against migrants in the last jump by the Federation, where it has been put in the hands of prosecutors to open proceedings on the basis of a possible crime of injury and omission of duties. More than 800 succeeded, and 200 of them were injured by police beatings. So political groups such as Adelante Andalucía have called for the immediate dismissal of the Interior Minister Grande Marlaska.
Mr. Marlaska came to Melilla to say that everything was perfect and that the civil guard acted with absolute proportionality. However, we saw videos where it is perfectly clear how migrants are beaten or gassed when they are on the ground, defenseless, or even kicked when they fall from the fence.
In Melilla, the arrival of migrants through the fence increased by more than 300%, according to the Ministry of the Interior, which reinforces its police presence. While the controversial police action against migrants at the Melilla fence is being investigated in its temporary state centers, applicants for international protection are waiting for an alternative to continue their migratory journey to the European continent.
Sergio Rodrigo y Carlos Gil, TeleSUR, Melilla.
We've come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at TeleSUR English. You can also join us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Dio Martin. Thanks for watching.